What's up, gang? It's Matt from Primary Complete. We've been getting a lot of questions from folks wanting to know how they can support the show. Honestly, it's crazy to us that people are even interested in this. But to answer the question, there are several ways. The biggest way is whatever platform you choose to listen to the show, rate it and leave a comment. The more 5-star ratings we get and comments we get, the more our show is exposed on these platforms. Another is just talking to your friends. If you're sitting at the firehouse kitchen table and somebody shares a situation or something they're going through, and you can remember a guest that we had or a past episode they may benefit from hearing, just suggest it to them. Lastly, if you feel so inclined, there's a donation link on the Primary Complete podcast website. We can't possibly say thank you enough for all the love and support that you have sent our way. It's humbling to say the least, and we are continually grateful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was shocked, and it was much more hilly than I thought it was going to be.
Right.
Yeah, I'm like, this place is supposed to be just flat.
I feel like if you go down the East Coast, you'd have a way different experience than
that
driving
right?
down the West Coast of Florida. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it should be two different states. I mean, they're completely different. But
Yeah, I've been to St. Petersburg for the Pure Fitness course, and then went to, is it Brownsville? Is that in Florida? Brownsville?
I'm not
Somewhere.
sure.
I think that may be in Florida somewhere. It's somewhere down that way. But I've been to Disney World one time when I was super young. But that's it. 3 trips to Florida.
Yeah.
Got like 5 trips out of the state in 36 years.
I was going to say, you said earlier I don't travel. I'm like,
yeah.
okay.
Not many.
Well,
Not many. I've been New York one time, Oklahoma elk hunting, Louisiana duck hunting, St. Paul, Minnesota for water pumps technician school, and then Florida a handful of times. That's it. I don't go nowhere.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the second place that we went. It was on the East Coast. The inlet is well known to surfers, but I can't think.
Sebastian Inlet?
That's the right inlet. We were one more inlet south. Fort Pierce,
St.
maybe?
Lucie, Fort Pierce?
I think we were in the Fort Pierce area. Beautiful. Yeah, we caught way more fish there than the left coast side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This East Coast is better for that for sure.
Yeah, we took the boat down and did another Airbnb with a place that had a dock.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was nice. We ended up catching like a 6-foot shark. I don't know what kind it was at the dock.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty common down there.
Yeah.
They hang around waiting for scraps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was crazy. Like inside the little, marina bay. Like, okay, you roll deep around here with your big sharks.
Oh, yeah. I've got a really funny story about that. I try to do an annual girls trip. I'm very, very lucky to have a close group of girlfriends. And there's actually like 13 of us. And I kind of got all these girls together from different avenues in my life and said, you know what? I'm just going to get them all together and introduce them. And somehow, magically, some kind of miracle happened. They all get along. So now we do an annual girls trip, or we did until, COVID. And the last trip we did, we went to the Keys. One of my close friends, Lena, who's a complete riot. Ralph hears me talk about her all the time. She's crazy. We go to the Keys, and she thought it was a good idea to go swimming in the area where, the marina area where you dock your boats and all that stuff. And it was beautiful water, and it was, nice and open, not a typical marina that's crowded with boats. So it's inviting to swim in. And these fishermen, they're on the dock, and they come up to us, the ones that aren't inebriated and not swimming in the marina, saying, I think you should probably get your friend out. There's sharks in this water, and we just saw a 13-foot bull shark. So we tell her, Lena, get out of the water. She's like, why? It's so nice. There's a shark in there, and they just saw it 5 minutes ago, and you want to get out. I swear she walked on water. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. She came shooting out of that water so quick. She came up onto the rocks, was climbing up on the rocks to get out of there. I wish I had it on video, but it was hysterical.
Was she one of the ones that was inebriated?
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
For sure.
Sober instantly. Shark.
Oh, no.
What?
Instant sobriety. 100%. But it was just great. It was, yeah. So don't go swimming around the docks in Florida.
Yeah.
Lesson learned.
Yeah. I would sign off on that. That's good advice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm
Brock?
sure I'm sure they come up in the inlets and stuff here, but I don't think ours are anywhere big
Yeah.
enough for 13 footers. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big shark.
Mm-hmm.
bigger than I want to deal with.
Yeah. Bravo for doing the friend group thing.
Oh, it's great. I mean, you know, the older I've gotten and the more I've put on my plate professionally, the less time I've had, you know, subsequently to do anything personal and keep up with my friends. And I'm also very lucky to have friends that I've had for a very long time. I mean, I've got friends that I have from elementary school, from very little, you know, childhood friends. And I've also done a lot of different things in my life. And so I've made friends in these different avenues, like I was saying. And to be able to catch up with them and hang out with all of them on a consistent basis is just unfortunately not realistic or practical at this stage in my life. So the solution to that was to introduce them all to one another. And we all get together monthly, try to do dinner or something, you know, and whoever can show up does, and whoever can't. But at least we have this group text, and we all try to communicate on there and get together monthly and then do one annual girls trip, you know, and the majority of the girls are either married with kids or whatever. So that one trip is like their vacation. And so, I mean, they're allowed to be inebriated on those trips, you know,
Yeah,
like the once a
absolutely.
year. And
Sure.
we have a great time and they all get along and they're all from different walks of life. I've got one who's an attorney, one's an interior designer. I've got, you know, me, I'm a firefighter. And then I've got each just all different walks of life. And we all just kind of get together and hang out. So
That's fun. If you don't do something like that, as far as getting friends together with purpose, like make it a priority.
100%.
Yeah. And if you have a group, then everybody's like, hey, when we're going, that sort of thing. It's one of those snowball effect deals, but that's awesome to hear that you have that big group.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's rare these days for women to have big groups of women that they hang out with. You know, they might have one or two, but to have more than 10, I feel like is unheard of, let alone more than 10 that you've had your whole life, you know? So it's pretty cool to get them together. And it's even cooler that they get along and now we do these crazy trips. So
lifelong friends.
yeah.
Yeah, gotta protect that. I just sent my buddy a picture of we went to Utah for my birthday a couple of years back. And, you know, your phone's smart enough, it sends you those like reminder pics.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like going again. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
Is any of your good friends tattoo artists?
No, none of the girls are.
I got you.
But my tattoo artist that I do see, his name is Travis Brown, and I've known him, man, since I was 16, so quite some time. And you know, he's the one working on my leg right now, and I was just pulling up some photos the other day of a tattoo he did on me over 10 years ago, and it's just, man, he looks the same. And it's funny to reminisce, but he's a good friend. And he's been an artist of mine for a long time. So
When did you get your first one?
I was 15,
Cool.
actually. Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah. Very, very
with
young.
consent or with like
Absolutely not.
yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
You know, and I hid it for years. My poor parents, I put them through hell and back, you know, God bless both of them. But definitely not consent. And I hid it for years from them. And then, you know, I think they gave up after my 5th or 6th one. They're like, all right, well, too
Can't
late
stop
now.
it.
Can't
Yeah.
do anything now, you know. So
Turns out it's not going to rub off.
yeah. Turns out they're there for good. So
Yeah, the only reason I even thought about that is that I got one done this past week, and I was sitting here rubbing it, and I was like, oh, tattoos. Yeah, she's got tattoos. Yeah.
yeah, a few.
Yeah. I just thought about that. That's pretty cool. So with us this evening is Miss Elizebeth Suit from West Palm Beach.
Yeah.
Great to have you on the show. this
Thanks for
evening.
having
We kind of
me.
blew right past the
That's all right.
introduction.
Oh, yeah,
This
it
is
was
perfect. Yeah,
Very
perfect.
organic, natural.
Perfect. Yeah, it's perfect. Perfect. Man, where to begin tonight, Steve? Miss Elizabeth, a super cool chick. It's kind of weird how our paths crossed.
I know.
We were talking
I
about that
know.
at dinner. It's trying to figure it all out of how it all came about. But super happy you're here with us this evening for sure.
Thanks. Me too. I'm excited.
West Palm Beach Fire Department.
Yeah. Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. I mean, best department ever, but you know, I'm a little biased, I think. So
Of course.
Right. I was going to print up your resume.
yes.
No,
Not enough paper?
not enough paper. Yeah.
That's not true. I can fit it all on one page, I promise.
I don't know how. I was just, due diligence, doing my homework
Mhm.
before you came on the show. And I'm like, this girl has done a lot.
I have. I feel like I've lived multiple lives in one. A lot of life experience for a short amount of time, I feel.
Yeah.
So, which I'm grateful for. I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. But
clearly, the fire department is in that resume somewhere.
yes.
Yes. But the first part, or the first things I could find, was the horse, riding horses and at a competitive level.
Yeah.
You grew up in Florida. Did you
Yes.
grow up on a farm?
Kind of. So grew up in Florida. Like I said, I was born in Miami, and I started riding when I was 3. It was somewhat of an accident. My mother took me to the farm, and I'd been begging to ride, and she thought that I was going to go ride, get scared, and be like, okay, never mind. And that backfired. So I kept riding, and that was that. But there was this amazing farm down in Miami called Hunting Horn Stables, and so I grew up pretty much on that farm. If I wasn't in school, I was at the farm riding, training for competitions and stuff. And then that is ultimately what led me up to Palm Beach County, Wellington, Florida, being one of the top places to ride in the world. And so we moved up there because I turned professional at that time. I was 10 years old and wanted to be closer to the competitions. And that's what took me to Palm Beach County. And then that's also what paid for me to go to college and paid my way for a lot of opportunities and different experiences that I got to do early on. So that was my first career, I guess you could say, was professional horseback riding.
That's so wild. I would never, when you think about Florida, to me anyway, just tell you a little bit how naive I am. When I think about Florida, horses would never be what came to the forefront of my mind. When I think horses, I'm thinking like Wyoming and Montana and working cows and that sort of thing. That's what reflects in my mind. But that's really interesting that it's that big in Florida. I didn't have any idea.
It is. I don't think it's considered real horses. I mean, not to knock it or anything like that, but
they're different. Yeah, it's not working horses.
Right.
Yeah.
Like nowadays, I consider real horses Montana. Right. Like my dream is to retire and move out to Montana, and have horses out there that I can just gallop through the fields, and that's real horses to me. Obviously, Wellington, Florida is not that, and the horses there are more, show horses,
Sure.
competition horses. So it's just a whole different world in itself. But little did I know at that young of an age, turning professional, that it would afford me the opportunities that it did, and teach me to be the woman that I've become now regarding discipline and accountability and all kinds of things that it did for me early on. So definitely was glad I was a backfired plan to my mother, that 3-year-old girl.
Yeah.
So.
Lesson to you young parents out there.
Yeah, be careful.
Be careful with that method.
Yeah, it doesn't always work.
Did you always ride the same horse, or were you switched around?
I switched around. So, my family, I was very fortunate again, to have a family that was able to provide me these opportunities, but we were not rich by any means, barely middle lower class starting on in Miami. And so horseback riding, it's known it's not a cheap sport to get into.
Sure.
So my parents couldn't afford to buy me a horse and do all of that stuff. So I basically rode whatever horses were there at the barn available. And as I got older, I got known as the girl that would just ride anything because that's what I knew. And that's what eventually made me a better rider because I was riding so many different horses, whether they were problem horses or not. They knew they could call Liz over and she'd hop on it, no problem, and nearly die, but that was okay, not a big deal at that time. And, that's what eventually got me my start as a professional rider so young. And my dad was a very smart businessman. And when we moved to Wellington, he wanted me to be able to continue riding and could not afford to still, buy me a horse, or especially a competition horse. They're very pricey. And so he made it known to all these professionals that, hey, there's this little girl who's very good at riding. She can ride your ponies that you're trying to sell and, win with them. And then you can sell the ponies. So he set up a business that I didn't really care about at that age. All I cared about was getting to ride.
Yeah.
So he set up a business, and then I just rode ponies for people, and they paid to keep the horses there and paid for me to ride them. And that's how I got the opportunity to ride so much.
That's too cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Kudos to Pops.
I know. Very smart. Very smart.
Is there a community like your desire to get all your friends together, do you think that's where it was born, and in the traveling and doing the competition riding, or did that sense of community come later?
It's a very good question. I would say it probably has something to do with it. I mean, I'm an only child, so I grew up with brothers and sisters at the farm, right? And so I didn't have that at home. And I will say that, traveling early on, I was traveling to Germany at the age of 14 for different competitions, friendship games, things like that, and making friends all over the world early on. So it very well may have been, that starting it. I like to think, I was listening to, I think it was a show. Was it a show or a podcast? I can't remember what I was listening to recently that said, there's a lot of people that like to say, no, I'm alone, or I like to spend time alone. Well, they're full of it. We're humans, right? It's in our human nature, in our DNA, to be community-based
Travel.
beings, travel, meet people, have connections, right? We seek out all that stuff. So all the people that say, I like being alone, that's great. I enjoy alone time. But I've always seeked out that community and those connections for sure. And staying in touch for sure. I've been better at than most. So
nice. My daughter's about to turn 14. She asked who we were doing the show with tonight. She wanted me to ask you what your favorite color is.
White.
Perfect. All right,
Nice.
Cohen, it's white.
What's your daughter's name?
Cohen.
Cohen. Okay. Yes. So Cohen, my favorite color is white.
All right. Nice. Check.
Check.
I didn't forget.
Brownie points to daddy.
Nice. You got to collect those when you can.
For sure. How long did your professional career in the horse riding go? Maybe competition wise. How?
So it got me through college. Did 5 years, and then I came back to Florida and started my own business down in Florida, continuing to ride and compete. And I did that for a few years in Wellington. I had rented a farm there in Wellington, and it was a 25 stall facility, and it was nonstop 24/7 working. And I had given up the idea of med school at that point. I was just doing the horse stuff full time. And it just started to become less of a passion and more of just a job. And when it started to turn into that, I had to think to myself, am I going to do this for the rest of my life? Like, is this really where I want to be? I did still enjoy the horses and riding and all of that, but having it as a business was just a different animal. So I looked at, other options, maybe getting back in the medical field or whatever that is. And I had a close friend that actually happened to work for Palm Beach County. He was a family friend, and he said, hey, look, like, you're into fitness, you're into, you're pre-med, you should really look into firefighting. And I never really considered it. I'm a first generation, so it wasn't even a thought at that time that was even an option. And so I looked into it, and I did some ride-alongs, and I went to EMT school, and then that was history. So I made the switch. That was in 2012 that I started that journey and path. So made the switch from horseback riding to fire and EMS in 2012.
Yeah. Do you remember that first feeling? Like, somebody mentioned the fire department, and I remember thinking that it was this unopen group. Like, if you didn't have a dad or a cousin or a brother or something, like, it was not an option. It's almost like a religion is how I viewed it from the outside. It was kind of like a cult.
Yeah. Cult, brotherhood, same, right?
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, it seemed like this thing that you couldn't break the surface of. Yeah. That feeling you were just describing, it became more work and less passion.
Yes.
There's guys that feel that way, like in the fire service.
Right.
I wonder how we can freshen that up for that condition that you find yourself in. I've been there, a couple of times. Sure. I think everybody goes through your
for sure
cycles. A good fire will bring you right out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A good fire or a good story or a good save or a good something that just reignites that fire within that, had you started it all to begin with, whatever it is. Sometimes it's a good book. It just depends on what stokes your fire.
Right.
Pun intended.
So you went through EMT school. Did you immediately get hired? You said you did a couple of ride-ons and then went to EMT and then you said the rest is history. but
Yes, yeah,
I feel like
an
there's some,
interesting history.
yeah, I was about to say, I feel like there's some meat and potatoes in there
There
somewhere.
is for sure. So no, I did not get hired right away. It took me almost 6 years to get hired, full time, anyways. So went to EMT school. At that time, I was still doing the horse stuff, and I ended up having to go to bartending to make extra cash because now I'm going to school and trying to do the horse stuff and try to make money. And so I put myself through the EMT school and ended up bartending to supplement being able to pay for that and pay my way. And so I'd complete EMT school, and then I just work nonstop at the bar and horses for a few months and build up cash enough to go to fire school, and then
Right.
I'd do the same thing and work up enough cash to go to fire two, and then, back and forth, right, and do that. And, I thought for sure, I was like, all right, I'm going to get hired right away. It's not going to be an issue. And then, of course, a big hiring freeze happened in our area where nobody was getting hired. I mean, it was nothing for a very long time for us. And in the whole Florida state, I'm not sure outside of Florida, but for pretty much anywhere, driving distance was not hiring. And so, I had to say, okay, well, what am I going to do until then? So I just kept putting myself through schools. It's like, at least I'll stay busy with that, So if it wasn't, EMT and fire, then like I had mentioned at dinner earlier, I was like, all right, I can go to either paramedic or nursing school. I'll go to nursing school knowing I could challenge the paramedics test. So going back to school for that, all while working at the same time, I went ahead and pursued nursing school during that time. Professionally, for work, I've always had a passion for the fitness industry and health and wellness in general. And I ended up working for some pretty large publicly traded fitness companies. And so the first one that I worked for was Town Sports International, which is based out of New York City. And so I worked for them as basically their director of acquisitions. So they were a publicly traded company, as I mentioned earlier, and they were just acquiring all these smaller brands like Tap Out, Crunch Fitness, all these different brands. And so they needed somebody to meet with these CEOs or their directors to work out deals. And so that was a very interesting job. It required quite a bit of travel. I was back and forth to New York City multiple times a week, and I was exposed to a lot of really cool people, a lot of cool brands, a lot of cool interactions, and traveled all over the place, like I had mentioned. And so I worked for them for a few years doing that. And that got my feet wet in the corporate sector, in the corporate world. And I found it fascinating, attending stockholders meetings and all kinds of stuff, and got educated in that realm, in that corporate area. So through that job, I met the CEOs and founders of F45 Training. And they're also a very large company. Now they're publicly traded. At the time, they weren't. But a very large company that had started and was based out of Australia. And they were looking to infiltrate the US market, and they hadn't had sold any territories or franchises in the United States yet, or North America in general yet. And they were looking to really sell a master franchise. So to somebody that could just own North America. And they were looking at Town Sports because we were acquiring all these brands. So a meeting was set up with them. I flew out to California, where they had established an office in the US there. And I met with the two CEOs there in California about a potential acquisition deal for the company I worked for, Town Sports and F45. Now, the CEO from Town Sports decided not to move forward with that deal, but the CEO from F45 and I kept in touch, and he was trying to get me to come work for him. He was like, just come work for F45 corporate. We could really use somebody in the US. They had no US employees as of yet at that time. And so after a few years of him texting me saying, please come on board, I finally made the plunge and made the switch over to performance director for F45 training. When they did that, rather than taking a signing bonus, I said I wanted equity. So I acquired 2 territories or 2 rights to franchises. One I worked for corporate, which are the 2 gyms that I own today. And then I worked for them for a few years. And then when I got picked up finally by the fire department, I was like, all right, corporate world, see you later. And I walked away with the 2 territories and started my fire career. So that's kind of how that all worked in.
How in the world did you go from the horse world to the gym industry. How did these two worlds collide?
So
You said EMT and nursing school,
Mhm.
and then how did the world collide with the fitness industry through this?
right. So on a personal level, I always had a passion for health and wellness and fitness. When I went to college, you know, I had always been thin and, you know, lanky and agile my whole life and an athlete riding horses. And when I went to college, that was not the case for long. You know, I mean, I was riding nonstop, but I guess they say that freshman 15, you know, is a real deal thing. And I just did not know. And so I remember coming home to visit one summer in between semesters. And one of my close girlfriends still today, she said, Liz, you know, you have put on a little bit of weight. You should probably do something about that. She said it, you know, nicely, maybe not in those exact words to be specific. But anyway, she said something along those lines, and she made me look in the mirror and like, okay, all right, I've been covered up in Virginia for a few years now. I guess I need to, you know, get my act together. And I started working out, and in Virginia, obviously you had the school gym, but the big gym there was the Y. So I started going to the YMCA and working out. And then when I moved back to Florida, I decided to start going to a normal gym. And I had gone through, I was in a long-term relationship, and I had gone through a breakup, and I was like, all right, now's the time. If there's any, I'm going to hit the gym hard and find a hobby. And I got into working out more than normal, and then picked up bodybuilding and competing in that realm. I wasn't competing in horse stuff anymore, so I was going to compete in bodybuilding, and got involved on a personal level first and foremost. And then when I was able to kind of do that while I waited for firefighting, it was kind of a perfect synergistic
it makes sense.
move. Yeah.
What a solid friend to be like, hey, you're packing on a few lbs.
Yeah, she looked at me, she goes, it wasn't actually that nice. She said, Liz, you got fat. Basically is what she said,
Damn it.
for lack of a better term. But thankfully, she said that to me. I was like, man, like, she's right. And I just didn't realize you're never in a bikini in Virginia, like, ever.
Yeah.
So in Florida, you're in it all the time. So, it's noticed. And obviously when I went in a bikini after not being in a bikini for a few years, it was a little different than she remembered. So yeah. Thank you, Marion, for that.
Yeah, what a baller.
Shout out Marion.
Yeah. Shout out to Marion.
She go on your girls trips with you?
She hasn't been able to. She has a little girl now, Ava, who's the cutest thing ever. So she doesn't get to get away that often, but she just recently moved to Vegas. So I miss her terribly, but we talk all the time. So
it's great.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, kids will interrupt a normal schedule. It's
No
a beautiful
doubt.
thing. Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but that happens.
Yeah.
Keeping in touch. Proud of you.
Yeah. It's important, and one of the things that, a lot of people, I get a number one question, like, how do you do it all? Or how do you remember to do this? How do you remember to do that? I don't really, because I don't make myself remember anything. I either write it down, put it in my calendar, or I do it right in the second that I think about it, So if something randomly someday reminds me of Marion,
Yeah.
hey, hope you're doing well. Like, I just do it right then and there. And as long as I live by that, then keeping in touch is easy.
That's strong advice.
Yeah. I'm wondering if those two things that kind of combines your success and your drive, that you seem to have. Started super early with horses, rode that all the way up into the highest level you could be.
Mm-hmm.
Then went into the gym industry, and I mean, on the corporate side of the gym world, that's probably the pinnacle. I mean, you competed as well, but on the corporate side of it, that's about the pinnacle, right?
Yeah.
Now to owning gyms, once again, the pinnacle of this. It sounds like a dream ride.
Yeah. It has. It has.
Has it all been as easy as it is when it comes out?
No, it never is. But those don't provide good stories anyways, so that's boring. You don't want to be vanilla.
Yeah. But there were avenues that you tried that most normal, like us mortals, we want to know that at least you tried something that didn't work out.
Yes,
Okay.
plenty of times.
Okay, good. Yeah,
Plenty
we
of
don't have to go
times.
into those, but yeah.
Oh, I'm happy to. It's not all rainbows and butterflies, right? But I've been, like I said, I'm an all or nothing person, if you couldn't tell.
Sure.
And if there's something that I want to do, I'm going to do it. And at least if I'm not able to do it, I can't say I didn't give it my all. I would hate to wake up one morning with regrets. So one of my biggest fears is wasting time, and I don't want to waste a second of it.
Yeah, you have a laundry list. As Steve said, your resume would, we couldn't fit it on a piece of paper. So, but would you say your amount of failures is equally as high or less?
I
or
would
just
say
don't accept failure and you're just gonna do it.
Maybe a little bit of everything to
Sure.
what you said. I'd say there are plenty of things that I've tried and not succeeded at least the first time at. And if, for example, when I went to nursing school, which was one of the hardest things I have to say I've ever done. Shout out to all the nurses. That NCLEX board exam is the devil, if for lack of a better term. But when I took my NCLEX exam, it took me 3 times to pass that stupid exam. And there were many times where I was like, I don't even want to be a nurse. I'm a firefighter. Like, I'm doing this to be a paramedic. I'm just going to go to paramedic school. And there were plenty of times where I was just like, I just wanted to walk away, So, and same thing, with, my first time taking the National Registry, not paramedic, but EMT. Of course, I waited too long, like they tell you not to do, right?
Right.
And so I waited too long, and I failed the first time, had to go back the second time. So there are plenty of things that I've failed at, and I just didn't accept failure. Like, I was like, I didn't go through all this schooling and all this traumatic experience working and all that through school to not walk away with a license, So you just don't accept failure, and you keep going back for more until you succeed, and then on to the next,
Yeah. Well, like you said, it took 6 years to get into the
right.
FD. Yeah.
And I think that's one small thing that separates types of people, right? Like, at what point do you throw in the towel and move on with your life? And I think, that fine line is in different places for everybody. For some people, it might have only been 3 years. For some people, it might have been 10. For some people, and it just happened to be 6 for me. But I think that small difference of knowing when to close the chapter or close the book and move on to the next thing is the difference between succeeding or not sometimes. And, there's no right or wrong answer to it, I don't think. But, for me, I had been waiting a long time, and I told myself, if I'm not hired by 30, I gave myself a deadline after waiting for so long. If I'm not hired by 30, I'm moving on, and I'm going to, join the military and do all these things. And I got hired by 30.
Nice.
So, right after.
Were you involved with West Palm Beach during this 6-year period? You still go do ride-alongs or anything like that, or just completely set it away?
Yeah, so I was a reserve for Palm Beach County Fire Rescue for 4 years prior to getting picked up full-time.
What does that mean?
Volunteer.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So I did that for 4 years. It helped keep up my certs. It helped me keep hands-on, current, all of that, so I didn't get too far away from it, and kept me interested in the field and all that.
Is there any requirements as a reserve down there? Do you have to pull time at a station or?
Yeah, they had their own requirements at that time. I think they've changed since, but you had to do, X amount of hours ride-alongs. You had to keep up your skills. They had certain, time commitments that you had to be on call for. I had a pager, stuff like that. So
I'm just picking your brain here.
No,
but
please do.
That,
that's what I'm here for.
Do you have to the volunteer side of it, do you have to be in the process for being hired in order to be that, or can you just Joe Blow off the street become a volunteer?
You can be a volunteer. You don't have to be in the process. Now, you did have to be certified.
Okay.
You did have to have EMT and either be in fire school or be fire certified. I believe now you have to actually be fire certified, but at the time you could be in the process of being certified. There are a few, like the people in charge of the reserve battalion, weren't really firefighters themselves before, and they're just, nice citizens that decided to kind of take on this program and oversee it. And there are a few firefighters involved as well, retired firefighters that are involved as well. But we kind of created this nice reserve program and, volunteer program, and I just put myself in that while I waited.
Yeah, here in this state particularly, it's not so much on the East Coast like where we are here, but the further you get west, out towards Tennessee, and maybe even before you get to the mountains a little bit, but it's we're super rural. Just outside of our big metropolitan cities, Raleigh, Charlotte, our capitals. So there's we rely heavily on volunteers.
Yeah.
Here in this state, and it's just like I said, I mean, Joe Blow off the street can go to the local firehouse and say, hey, you know, I'll start volunteering, and then they can be voted to be accepted on. That is with restrictions. Obviously, you know, they have to go through a certain amount of classes and stuff like that before they're allowed to go interior
Right.
and so on. But I just trying to see what it was like in Florida.
Yeah, no, and I mean, there's a lot. I mean, the majority of the country is still volunteer
Sure.
firefighters, and that just boggles my mind. I mean, it's crazy. And you know, in the town where my mother lives in West Virginia, I say town. It's really not much of a town, but the closest fire department is 40 minutes away, and it's volunteer. So, like, God forbid something happens, like they might be coming, but like in a few hours. And they don't stay at the station. You know, they get paged.
Oh, sure.
They go to the station. They
Right.
get the trucks. Who knows how far away they live from the station, you know? So it's like, they might be due in a few hours. I don't know. You know, by
Yeah.
that time, it's just crazy. And, you know, the guys that do it, I mean, I believe that the volunteer firemen are the real MVPs. I mean, the stuff that they do just because.
Yeah, with
It's
no
just,
pay.
with no pay,
Yeah.
you know, and in places up here up north in the cold, and it's just,
Yeah,
I mean,
some,
kudos.
yeah, one of the busiest and most publicly praised departments in the country is all volunteer. Kentland,
It's amazing.
They're 100% volunteer, and they're ridiculously busy. I mean, they're crazy. They have volunteers that actually live at the station. I think if I'm not mistaken, Jeremy, you can probably help me out with this. But if I'm not mistaken, I think a lot of the northern fire departments, a lot of their guys will go to Kentland and
Yeah, all the
volunteer.
Maryland DC companies
Yeah.
all volunteer there.
That's amazing.
Isn't it wild?
It's like, I just want to talk to one of them and be like, why?
Yeah. What's wrong with you?
Like,
Fire.
I mean, like,
Fire is why.
I totally respect it, and that's amazing. But like, what's your why? You know, like obviously all of our whys should be the same, right? But
Mhm.
like, we all have livings, and we all have to support families and stuff. It's like, I want to know deeper, like, why? You know?
Yeah.
Just fighting fire is fun.
I mean, there's that, of course.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm asked all the time. There's a firehouse 4 minutes from my house. It's not far. Little town, I guess town you could say I live in. There's a little local firehouse there, and I get asked all the time why I don't volunteer for them, and I'm like, I don't want to do what I do for my career on my day off.
right,
So,
right.
but yeah, massive kudos to them. I
Yeah.
100% agree with you. They're the real MVPs. 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm not
absolutely.
doing it.
No, I mean, it's great. It's great.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I'm gonna get a bottle of water, brother.
Yeah, get
You
you
hear
a
me?
water. No, I hadn't picked up on it, but
You
hear poor fella.
Poor guy.
We almost lost him. He was going to be brimming on the floor.
Listen, I know we're here, but I'm off duty. I know we're EMS and fire, but I'm off duty
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah.
So take care of yourself.
Yeah, I'm fucked in this room.
Yeah, I suppose we'll help you if you need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Don't just let me go.
Nah.
Right. Don't turn that thing off.
Anyway,
Yeah.
aggravating ass thing.
Mm-hmm. Hoffman gives that arm holding that mic a lot of hell.
Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
See? I think you're back now.
I feel like you
I
need
move
to
a
like
lot.
name
I
her.
can't sit
You
still.
gotta like be gentle.
Mm-hmm.
I need to put a little tag on it.
Yeah, like name her.
What would
Nice-
be a good
nice
name?
to
What
her.
would be a good name for this?
Uh-oh.
Oh, I don't know. It's a really good question.
Maybe a good horse name.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I feel like anything important should be named though. It's like a must.
There's some truth in that. Yeah. Yeah. Horses always have the weirdest names
Don't they?
or most creative.
Yeah. So my first horse's name was Tiddlywinks.
Tiddlywinks.
Do you know what that is?
And it's a game, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Good job. Yeah. They're like a really old school game. That's
Right.
my first horse's name.
What was the game Tiddlywinks?
I don't know the
was
game. I just
like-
know that
It
it
was,
was
the
a game.
bouncing ball and the jacks.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Spike jacks, wasn't it?
Yeah, kind of. It was like the first version of Jax. But yeah, it was, you know, whatever. I played it when I was a kid.
Tiddlywinks.
Tiddlywinks. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Does I had two horses growing up, Little Miss Dynamite and Blackjack.
Oh, I bet Little Miss Dynamite was just so much fun then.
She was.
Sounds like it.
She was old, and I'm the youngest of 3
Mhm.
children. And Little Miss Dynamite was our horse. Me and my 3 older sisters, and we gave that poor horse hell.
Hmm.
Absolute hell.
Was she a ball of fire?
No, she was old and slow and hated all of us.
So where'd the name come from?
I don't know, maybe when she was younger. When we
Maybe.
got her, her name was, she had already assumed her name.
I'm not sure I'd buy a horse that was named Little Miss Dynamite, but
Yeah.
you're brave for doing so.
Yeah, and then my dad's horse, he was Blackjack.
Okay.
He was cool.
Yeah.
He used to lay down. He would let us get on top of him while I was laying down. Just,
Chill out.
yep. It was like a giant yard dog. Yeah, he was cool.
Those are the best.
Yeah, Little Miss Dynamite, she hated us.
Well, sounds to me like she had good reason.
Like an old puppy, you know, or an old dog. You
Yeah.
know, they don't like little kids. They're
Yeah,
like,
there's like
get
growl,
off
like,
of
don't
me.
touch me.
yeah.
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 Too funny.
That's been my horse experience. I had them all the way up until, we moved from that house. I guess I was probably 8 years old. I've been in and around horses. My wife, she grew up riding horses. So I've been in and around them off and on for a lot. Distinctive smell.
Yeah. Cool animals.
They are, that's for sure. Does your fire truck have a name?
Well, Ladder 57. We have not. She's new, so we
Ooh.
haven't named her.
Mm.
I keep telling the guys we need to come up with a name. Now, I mean, like our fire station is called the Lion's Den because it's off Lions Road.
Aggressive.
Yeah, very aggressive. Not as aggressive as some names, you know. I will say some of them are a little scary, but 57 is the Lion's Den, and so I'm trying to come up with a good name for our new truck. So
Yeah. Firehouse 21, just south of Central Park, is the Lion's Den. Yeah, they have two nice lions right on either side of the bay.
Yeah, I've
cool.
seen that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Seen
it's-
pictures of it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. Ours, we don't have a name for truck 17.
I feel like you should.
It's just her.
Her.
I'll call it her.
Isn't it funny how all trucks are girls? Like all trucks are girls.
Well, I think we're supposed to treat them kindly,
Yeah.
and we expect them, you know, to be there when we need them and
Yeah.
to work. And I don't know many men that I can depend on to do that. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a valid point. You're not wrong.
So that's why I call it her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All trucks are, at least for me. I mean, my pickup truck, she's a her. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go down the vehicle one.
Yeah. Yeah. My last truck with a name was Tiffany. So,
there you go.
Yeah.
See, point in case.
mhm. That's a
Wow.
trip.
What a spin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Too funny.
Yeah, to keep that dance going a little bit further, the restaurant
Yes.
headquarters.
Yes.
It's a great idea. We talked about it a little bit while we were eating tonight. Why would you decide to go and start a restaurant?
Well, to recap a little bit about what we were talking about at dinner, I never saw myself in the restaurant industry or the hospitality industry, but you know, I saw there being a need for community again, you know, as we were talking about earlier, and community within the fire service. I mean, I know there are Fools chapters all over the country, but that's kind of fallen out in the last few years. We used to have a Palm Beach County
Sure.
Fools chapter that really has dissipated. Doesn't really get together anymore. And, you know, all these fire conferences and stuff that go on, I mean, it's one of the reasons. Obviously the training is great. That's fun. That's all well and good. But one of the main reasons people go is because they get together with the community and like-minded people from all over the country and hang out with their brothers and sisters. You know, I mean, let's be honest. That's a really big part of fire conferences.
Yeah,
And
it's a big draw for sure.
yeah, huge. And so you don't really have that, at least in our area, on a local level and on a regular basis. And that in conjunction with the fact that mental health and suicide and PTSD and all of these things related to mental health in the first responder and military communities has just really been exacerbated, for lack of a better term, over the last 5 years or so, and even more so over the last year. There was just a need for that community. So I say all of that to lead me to, that's how I ended up with this restaurant idea. You know, I wanted to create a club that firefighters could go hang out after shift and just shoot the breeze and, you know, either have breakfast or have a brew or hang out and decompress from shift and just before they go home. And, you know, I thought, well, if people are going to get together and hang out and they're going to want drinks and food, so I guess I'm opening a restaurant. So thus headquarters was born.
Yeah, when I was looking at like the name and just the idea, I was like, I really hope this catches on and we get one in town because this would be amazing.
Yeah. So, what's crazy about it, it's been so well received by the community and by anybody that just lays their eyes on it. And throughout the build out and, solidifying the space and signing the lease and all of that, my landlord is this huge conglomerate real estate company nationwide called Austin Partners. And so when I met with them initially prior to signing the lease, it's just as much of an interview for them as it is for me. I mean, we're going to be in this hopefully symbiotic long-term relationship. This is a 15 to 25-year lease. And so they're interviewing me and what headquarters is all about, and I'm interviewing them and what they're all about, and we're about to sign this 25-year long contract potentially. So it's, this whole meeting, right? And I created this deck here sitting in front of you that initially was for them to kind of just try to bring to life what's in my head so that they could at least see kind of what I'm trying to accomplish on paper rather than just listening to me ramble on for hours about the fire service. So I created this deck here. And they just fell in love with it. Absolutely fell in love with it. And I'm sure they saw the passion on my face about it. And that, obviously helped quite a bit. And they've got, over 50 locations nationwide. And, at the end of the meeting said, well, we want you to obviously be here in this district here that we own. And you've got yourself a lease for sure. But we want you to open one of these in every one of our locations nationwide. And I was like, well, that's great. Let's make this one a success first and we'll go from there, right? But so the potential and the opportunity is definitely there. So I'm very, very excited to see what this could be in the next, 10 years or so. But we'll get the number one open and go from there.
This is exciting.
It is.
Yeah.
I want to roll back to what you mentioned. You said the mental health thing seemed to have kind of be brought to the forefront about 5 years ago. What is your perception on why do you think that just became a thing?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like what came first, right? The chicken or the egg.
Sure.
And I'm not sure if it's the climate that has exacerbated this type of sickness. I mean, because, poor mental health to me is a sickness and a disease in its own right. So I'm not sure if climate or whatever, fill in the blank, right, exacerbated this. Or if things are just more publicly talked about now, because the stigma behind mental health has thankfully gotten better and better over time. So which one came first, I'm not sure, if it's just more on the surface and being talked about or if something is exacerbating. And I'm not really sure, but at the end of the day, I don't really care.
Sure.
I just want to address it. Whatever the reason is, it is, and it is what we've got to deal with in the here and now, I feel. So, I just personally noticed it more so in the last 5 years, probably just because I'm now in those industries, right? I'm sure it's been going on for a lot longer than that, long before I was ever on this earth, let alone an idea. But like I said, now it's just more talked about and more out there.
Yeah, that's I don't think you're far off though with the 5 years. I've been in the fire service since 2005. And it's not been a thing ever really until probably around 5 years ago. It just seemed to slowly be becoming more prevalent, I guess you could say. I attribute a lot of it to a lot of the military folks coming home. We've been in this long ass war for so long, and they're coming home, and you're starting to hear all these PTSD terms and all these kind of things, and it's all spawning from the military. And then it's just kind of bled over into our industry, and it's becoming very common. Not only the condition or what folks are suffering from, but like you said, the conversation. We're doing some good things, I believe, nationwide in the fire service, and I think we're missing the mark also. I can't speak for every department in the nation, but I do feel the climate as far as national fire service goes is we're on the right track, but we could always be better. Here in New Hanover, we try to be as aggressive and progressive at the same time as we possibly can. We try to be proactive about it. that sometimes is a good thing, and then sometimes that is a bad thing, depending on how it's done.
100%.
It's a touchy subject. What is is that kind of the same thoughts that it is in Florida as well with your department? Are they trying to be on the front side of it and then, just kind of coming up short, or is it just they're just treating symptoms?
I can't comment as if they're on the front side of it or not. I mean, my perception of it is that they're not.
Sure.
There very well may be things that they're doing that I'm unaware of.
Sure.
Which I hope that there is. But I will say, to touch on what you were saying about it's a touchy subject. It definitely is. And it's, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So just because it's a touchy subject doesn't mean we don't talk about it. And I feel like a lot of people don't know how to say it, right? Like they know what to say. They don't know how to say it. So they just don't say anything at all. And then it just, leaves us at, ground zero, starting over from scratch because nobody knows how to have the conversation. So I will say, I'm involved in this company called the Herd Group, and they teach mental health and suicide awareness. We don't say prevention. We always say awareness because whether it's going to happen or not, we got to be aware of it, right? And so a lot of fire departments specifically hire this company, the Herd Group, to come in and talk about mental health and talk about PTSD and talk about suicide awareness and all of that nature and address the, like I was saying, the climate or the fact that it's just so prevalent these days. And unfortunately, the majority of these departments are hiring us reacting to a loss that they've had.
Right.
Which is sad. Why didn't you hire us before? Like, why did it take, a death? Why did it take a suicide for us to be here? And I feel like, in most industries, not just the fire service, but in any industry, most of the time, they're doing HR when there's been a lawsuit, or they're doing, it's reactive because they're not going to spend the money or take the time unless they have to. And then, something happens and, oh shit, well, I guess we should do something about it now.
Yeah.
And so I think, unfortunately, suicide is very much the same and mental health is the same. But at least it's happening.
Yeah, it's not a thing until it's a thing.
Right. And, and I think that's the same thing with a lot of the different trainings and things that have come to be in the fire service. Line of duty deaths or accidents that have happened have then sparked new policies and SOGs and procedures because of unfortunate mishappenings happening.
Yeah. If you were going to defend like a chief or something, like you don't plug your tire until it's got a nail in it.
Exactly.
Right? So there's a little, but now that it's known, like in the last 5 years or however long, but the conversation is happening now. So maybe the preventative stuff will start to become more common. This Herd Group.
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
So the founder of the Herd Group, his name's Jeremy Herd. He actually works for my department as well. He is our chaplain.
Oh, cool.
And so he's probably the second, if not the first phone call that's made when something like this happens in our department or their surrounding. A lot of, just in South Florida in general, they utilize our chaplain, and he's very good at what he does when it comes to that. And he saw the need for this type of class, so he developed some courses surrounding it and now offers it to all these different departments, and not just fire, but police and corporations in general. And so he's a friend of mine, and his wife actually is a personal trainer for me at one of my gyms. So we've got a very good personal relationship, and he's asked me to help him teach some of these classes to the local departments. So I'm able to deliver this course material to departments locally.
That's awesome. His name is poetic.
Yeah, for sure.
Perfect.
Jeremy Herd.
Yeah, like anybody that's dealing with any sort of depression or just, frustration, whatever it is, that's kind of the core of, they just want to be heard. Like,
Yeah.
Let me explain my problem and get some help or just understand it, But what a cool name for that calling.
100%. And I mean, and he's the chaplain as well. So that's just happens to be both, and, the great thing about him is if you ever feel like you want to have that talk with somebody and you just don't know, like I was saying earlier, how to say something, there's been plenty of times where I've picked up the phone and I'm like, Jeremy, I don't know what to say, how to say it, but this person needs help. and I asked them permission to call you, and they said yes. So
Yeah.
here you go.
Here's
You
the
know,
football.
like,
Right.
Yeah.
and you know, whether or not I did my part, at least I made the connection, and it goes wherever it goes from there. But if at the very least you're at least making that intro, then that's better than nothing. So
Man, a chaplain, that's an honorable position. Like, there's no fanfare. You know, you're just signing up for pure, like, you want to help.
loss,
Yeah.
grieving.
Yeah. Imagine all the exposure they get. And any chaplain I've ever met, they're like good in the core. You know, just the coolest people. And there's no like touchdown dance at the end, you know?
Yeah, no, it's just on to the next,
Mm-hmm.
which is, you know,
Yep. No glamour in that job.
no.
That's for
Yeah.
sure.
They're so needed, though.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. What's your hopes for how this mental health program and situation goes?
You know, I'm really hopeful that it becomes like that stigma is gone. Is there a cure for it? No, I don't think so. You know, humans will be humans and we will do what we will do, you know. And unfortunately, we all have our inner demons or our struggles that just sometimes, unfortunately, can't be avoided. But I do think what can be avoided is how society receives these struggles and how society judges these people for these struggles and how society talks about these things when it's none of their business or approaches those people when they're in need, you know. So the controllables, I'm hopeful that humanity can soften around the stigma and have some good positive effects on the controllables, you know, and that's all we can hope for. All we can hope for.
Sure.
So
It sounds like you're doing a lot to put the message out of being able to talk and that kind of thing. I mean, you mentioned that it was one of the first statements out of your mouth when you were talking about your restaurant was how it portrays the mental health and this kind of community aspect of things. Yeah, I mean, if anybody's putting their money where their mouth is,
I'm trying.
goodness
I'm trying.
gracious.
Got to
Yeah.
get the doors open first. So yeah.
What's the expected date on that?
Well, you know, that's an interesting topic. So, with construction, you know, I mean, my goal originally was the holidays of last year, right? Holidays 2021. With that being said, permits in the city has just been a nightmare. Construction these days is just crazy getting materials and all kinds of stuff. You know, but we are pushing forward. Everything that's ordered can be, you know, my landlord has been amazing regarding being patient with me getting this place up and running. So it is coming. My goal is summer this year. So, you know, everybody's been so patient, especially at social media. Everybody's always asking, like, when are you opening? When are you opening? They're so excited. And so, you know, I'm thankful everybody's been so supportive and patient regarding getting it open. But, you know, I'm more excited than anybody. I can't wait to get it open.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm pumped. I think it's going to be awesome.
See, that's an excuse to travel and come to Florida.
Mhm.
I don't need an excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Just an invite.
Yes, well, you're officially invited.
Yeah.
No.
What time do y'all shifts get over in Florida?
7:30.
7:30. So this opens at 6:30.
That opens at 5.
What?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because if you're on your way to shift and I want breakfast
Fantastic.
and coffee or whatever,
Yeah.
you can come in.
So it'll be 5 a.m. till.
So on the weeknights, I'm thinking 9 or 10.
Okay.
You know, family friendly. We want it to be a very family friendly environment. And then on the weekends, no later than midnight because nothing good happens after midnight. So
Yeah.
that's ours. And it will say that on the door. It'll say 5 a.m. to nothing good happens after midnight.
That's good though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah.
So I definitely can't wait to get open and really be able to, you know, liven up that community and give people a place to go. And if you got nobody to talk to, you know, you can show up to headquarters and there'll be a brother or sister there that
Mhm.
you can hang out and shoot the breeze with.
Yeah, that's such a big key in this whole mental health thing is just the being around people.
Right. I mean, the community aspect is huge.
Yeah, you can talk to any fireman who's ever gone through a lull or a bad spot in their career, and they always end up somehow back at the firehouse, whether it's on shift or off shift. You know, they always just end up finding their way back there.
Yeah.
It's just, don't know. It's where it's our safe spot. It's a safe place. Excuse me.
Yeah.
It's just weird, right? I
And-
mean, to an extent. I mean, it's our workplace, but at the same time, it's our safe place. It just seems it's almost counterintuitive to the way everybody else thinks about their jobs. You know, it's where we find our comfort. It's with the people, I guess, not the building by any means.
Yeah,
But-
I mean, you live, at least for us, you live a third of your life with those people.
Absolutely.
And, they probably see you in more tough spots than the ones your loved ones, I mean, they see you in more difficult situations. And, I think for sure you're most vulnerable in some of those scenarios and situations for sure. So they know you better than some or most.
Mm-hmm.
And, with the community aspect of it, if you think about it, think about all the retirees that just feel like now they lost their brotherhood, or, the veterans that would rather be enlisted being shot at than retired at home, not because they like being shot at, although I will say some of my friends probably did enjoy that part. But, for the most part, it's because they've got the brotherhood and they've got that community. So, why not give a place for people like that, whether you're on or off the job, whether you're retired or not, or whether you're just starting out or not, so a place for everybody in all of those industries to go. So I think that's huge.
I think the concept makes so much sense that it's, I mean, knock on wood, but I don't see how it's possible to fail at all.
Me neither.
I mean,
So I'm glad you think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm very, very excited. And, I've got a few advisors, thankfully, that have been really helping me regarding building this concept out and guiding me in the right directions, because I don't know restaurants. I know gyms. I don't know restaurants. So I'm very thankful to have a few advisors, and, some of them fight me on, well, you need TVs. I mean, you're a bar, you need TVs. I'm like, no, I'm not putting TVs. I want people to talk to each other. Like,
Yeah.
I'm one step away from telling them no cell phones. What do you mean no TVs? Like, I don't think I can legally make them put their cell phones away. But, I don't want that. I want this place to stand for community and conversations and connections and, meaningful interactions. So no, I'm not putting a TV up. If they're lucky, I'll put a projector up for Super Bowl, but that's all they'll get.
Right.
So
I like it. Have they talked to you about? I'm geeking out for a second
Please
about
do.
kind of like floor plan and how that
Oh,
goes with like people gathering and talking and moving about and all that.
Oh,
kind of
it's
stuff.
already built out.
That's so
The
cool.
floor plans are there. I
Yeah.
mean, they've changed a million times because
Sure.
I'm insane like that. But yeah, so I wanted to create a very big bar, because firemen love bars,
Of
right?
course.
You can't help yourself. I can't help myself. So I wanted a very big bar, and then I made it so that there are, multiple booths, and then there's a loungy area. And then on the back patio, there's a cigar lounge. And so just kind of nooks and crannies. And there'll be also games like shuffleboard and darts and a record player, jukebox, that kind of thing. So very interactive. So whenever I go to a bar or go out, like, I want to go to a place that there's stuff to do other than drink and sit there. So I want to play games, or I want to do different stuff. So it'll be games and, like I said, cigar lounge, and obviously good food and local brews and stuff. But
I'm
Sure.
loving what I'm hearing, man.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. You said earlier about, like, in the firehouse, the people that you're with a third of your life, they go through some of the more tough things that
for
you
sure.
go through. And there's also that bonding, like the adrenaline dump of going to a fire together.
for sure.
Yeah, those are after a fire, those conversations, like, just how did it go? And I don't know, man, it's just
The
it's
debrief.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
That buzz. I look forward to hearing those conversations in the restaurant.
Right. And I mean, imagine the people that'll be there. Like, I can't wait. I love having conversations with retirees or veterans, and, like, I love hearing their war stories,
Mhm.
And so to have a place where, like, I'm going to have an endless line
yeah.
and supply of these stories. It's like, I'm so excited. And that's why I love, I mentioned earlier before we started the show, like, people are sending me coins and patches and memorabilia. I mean, you should see my office. It's full of, like, historic items from military and fire that I'm going to
That's
be
so cool.
putting up on the walls that have stories behind it. And it's like, I can't wait to display these war stories and these things about these items that have been coming to me in the mail, just to tell the story, so that it lives forever. So
That's
I'm a
so
total
cool.
nerd and geek out about that stuff for sure. But
Yeah, so neat though.
Yeah.
A lot of interesting things when it comes to old fire stuff, especially.
yeah.
Military's just as much. I mean, they got so much tradition, and there's this. Wow. Yeah, a lot of those, especially the military side of things, a lot of those coins have probably seen some shit.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
Right.
We don't really carry our coins, I guess, as much, in the fire trucks and on us personally, but military, them guys carry them a lot.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah, like into battle and all kinds of stuff. It's pretty cool.
Very neat. Very, very neat.
Mm-hmm.
What's next for you? So we've rode we've rode horses, we fought fires, we became a nurse, we became a paramedic. What is next? Headquarters, then what?
Well,
Then we go to Wyoming?
Montana.
Montana? Then we
Listen,
go to Montana?
I got 17 years before Montana.
Come on
so,
now.
Before full-time Montana.
Mhm.
I would like to get back and forth there a lot sooner, No, 17 years until I retire from the fire service anyways. I don't know if I'll retire permanently from anything, but
I'm gonna go with a doubt it.
yeah, probably not.
That's,
But
that's a strong I doubt it.
it's a strong I doubt it. Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I think so. What's next? I really, professionally, I've kept myself really busy, obviously. And just last year, actually the year before, I said, I really need to do something that has nothing to do with capital gain, that has nothing to do with doing something for some other community. No offense, it's like, all right, I need to do something selfish for myself, like for fun.
Sure.
One of those things was getting certified to skydive solo. So I did that, and that was awesome. I love it. And then another one was like I needed a goal. Like I'm very goal oriented, and I love to just accomplish things
I
like
would
that.
have never guessed.
Mhm.
No, never. So I decided to take on summiting the 7 summits. So I did Kilimanjaro last year, which was epic and amazing. And I'm going to do Elbrus this year in Russia, and I'll do one a year until all 7 are done, Everest included.
Wow.
So that's kind of on the list right now.
I feel like such a bitch.
No. I might be completely insane for putting that on the list, but you might sound more smart than a bitch, but
Mm.
to be determined.
Yeah. What kind of prep work are we talking? Like,
Lots of time on the Stairmaster at the F-45, my dude.
mm-hmm.
A lot of endurance. Yeah,
And breathing through a coffee stir.
pretty much. Yeah. No, it was, prep to Kilimanjaro wasn't that bad. It was a lot of endurance. I went from, bodybuilder type to endurance athlete, which has not been the easiest transition, to say it the least. So that's definitely been quite the hurdle and quite a struggle for me. But it's, slowly coming around. I've lost about 30 pounds of muscle in order to be lighter and more agile. And,
Yeah, unfortunately, in the fitness world, that's the way it goes.
yeah,
Mhm.
can't really have both. And the people who are both are just freaks of nature.
Yeah, they don't count.
And I hate them.
Yeah,
So
don't count.
Aside from travel time, like you arrived to do this climb, how long did that one take? Like, what was the commitment?
So it was on schedule for 6 days. I was fortunate enough to be the only one. I did it alone. I had a guide,
Mhm.
but I didn't have anybody else climbing it. So, and the guides, they've done it hundreds of times. It's nothing for them, right? They're like in flip flops and like a
Mhm.
tank
Sherpa.
top, like
Is that what they're called?
Sherpa.
Sherpas. What a fun word.
It's nothing for them.
Mhm.
So it was just me and this guide, and therefore I was able to go at my own pace. And he checked my vitals multiple times on the way up. And there were a few times where we were supposed to spend a whole day at camp and just kind of acclimate and hang out. And I looked at him, I was like, can we keep going? Like, I feel good. I'm out of breath and tired, but otherwise, let's
Yeah, you're wanting it.
let's keep going, and I didn't want to stay still for long. And so, he said as long as my vitals stayed good, we could keep going. So I did it in 4 instead
Wow.
of the 6. So
Nice.
When you're at camp with this other person, especially in your instance where you were solo, do y'all like talk at
Mhm.
all? Or is it just we're sleeping, and
No.
we
So,
don't
like,
exist when we stop because I'm exhausted and they're
we,
not. But
we definitely talked. I will say that I don't think he was used to that. I think he was used to Americans or tourists coming over and just wanting to climb and not have that
right.
connection and talk. And also probably most of the time they're not alone. Like they've got people that they're with, they're talking, right? And they're doing their thing and he's doing his. And, it was him and, a team of guys that were also there. And so, they're normally talking amongst themselves in Swahili, which I have no idea what the hell they're saying. And normally the people climbing are with their group and doing. So because I was solo, I wanted to be involved. Like I wanted to help cook. I wanted to help set camp. I wanted to like be part of it. And that to me is just as much as the experience as the climb.
Sure.
So I don't think he was used to that. And, definitely less talking on the way up because every breath, like I needed, I couldn't, even if I wanted, have a full on normal conversation without, I don't know, passing out. So, but on the way down, for sure, it took a day down. I mean, I made him give me Swahili lessons. Like I made him teach me songs. I learned about his daughter who's already climbed to Kilimanjaro and she's like 10 years old and like all these interesting things about him. And, so we talked a lot. And I mean, it was a long day down for sure. And I'm still in contact with him today, so I'm actually trying to work on getting a medical team together and going over there to help the villages and with medicines and stuff like that. So I'm in contact with him, still to this day from getting to know him on the climb.
Nice. What was the climate like?
So it was hot at the bottom. Well, I say hot, but it was in the upper 80s in the bottom and like rainforest. And then at the top, it was like -18 and you looked like you were on a different planet. I mean, it was so cold, so cold. So you experience every climate from one to the other and everything in between on the way up.
Did you go through a cloud layer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's very cool. Yeah. It was an awesome experience. I've got a cool video on my Instagram of like a compilation of the whole thing. And recently at my mother's this last week, I was showing it to her and reminiscing about it and thinking back how awesome it was. So I'm excited to do it 6 more times.
Bravo.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Sounds really cool. I'm gonna
It was.
live vicariously through you.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For
It was very cool. When people asked me when I first came back, I said, "So how was it?" And my initial reaction was, "Oh, it was a lot of fun." But then as the word fun left my mouth, I thought, that's probably the wrong adjective. I don't know if it was fun, but it was very cool and it was awesome and intense. But I don't know if fun is the right word.
Was the sense of actually reaching the summit the same as kind of looking back on it and appreciating the climb, like the process for it? No.
I mean, reaching the summit was awesome.
Sure.
But in that moment, and I really tried to focus on being present in that moment of like what I had accomplished in those few days. But 1, you're freezing. 2, you're hypoxic. 3, you just want to get some warmth and a shower. So it's really, really hard to stay present. And I remember thinking to myself, like, don't worry, you're going to get a shower. Don't worry about it. Like, it's going to, I remember forcing myself to stay present. And it definitely, like I said, it was a very good feeling to accomplish it. But it's more of a good feeling now, and in hindsight, looking on it and the overall experience of the travel and the people I met and, the thoughts that I had on the way up. And, I wish I could invent something that your thoughts just downloaded into like a document.
Oh my gosh.
Because I think I could have written like 10 books on that climb for sure.
Elon's working on it.
That would be, Elon, let me know when it's ready. I will be your first subject.
Yeah.
Let me know. But I mean, just the thoughts that I had and the overall experience is more valuable to me than the actual accomplishment in that moment.
Seems to be a common theme.
Yeah. I think it's a sickness.
No, I think you have an extremely addictive personality.
I do.
You're addicted to the process.
Yeah.
Yeah. The end goal is great, but
yeah,
then what?
It's always like, you don't even think, like when I think about the accomplishments, like before I even realize the accomplishment or really sit in it, I'm always already onto, all right, well, now what? like on to the next. And I have to be mindful of that and allow myself to, all right, you know what, like you're allowed to like enjoy what just happened before you're on to the next, but I enjoy the process. So is it really all that bad? I don't know.
Is that kind of how your father was?
I'm not sure. He's always definitely a very, very hard worker. He just recently retired and he's 70,
Sure.
and I say retired. He's, started some hobby and now it's a business. So
You say 70?
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody in that generation retires.
No,
Yeah.
Ever.
never.
Might retire from a career, but
Right. No. Now
ain't
he's
done.
definitely
Yeah.
not retired. And he's actually been a really big help with the gyms for me. I say retired, like you said, loosely. He was an architectural engineer. So when I'm doing the build out and the blueprints and dealing with construction teams and stuff like that, I said, hey, Dad, like, can you make sure I know what the hell I'm looking at here with this? I mean, I have an idea of building construction and all that just through the fire service,
Sure.
right? But I don't know what these blueprints and these codes mean. Like, I'm not an architect. So I got him involved with the gyms in that aspect, and he's just been such a great help and extremely involved, way more involved than I expected / wanted. But overall, he's been a big help. So
that's wonderful.
I'm jealous of your ability to, like you were saying, being present in that moment. It just seems like in all these goals and the things you've been setting, you're a part of it. You're there and appreciating not just the summit, but the process of getting up. It's admirable.
I try. I mean, I think it's easier said than done. And it's definitely easier to recognize it in hindsight than in the actual moment. But, as long as you're like, once you're aware, you can't become unaware, So if I'm aware that I want to be present, then it's at the forefront of my mind and, I can do my best to do so. Now, does that mean I don't have wandering thoughts in those, those moments? Absolutely not. Of course I do, but I can just do my best and try to document it all mentally and go from there.
Yeah, that's an important part of the process, though, is, I mean, getting to an obstacle that's so hard you don't feel like you can overcoming it, and then pushing through it. The sense of satisfaction is undescribable.
Yeah. And I will say, there's a lot of people that don't accomplish things because of physical adversity, right? Or, is probably more so mental than anything.
I would
They
agree.
think it's physical. Physical toughness is not saying die, but mental toughness is never thinking it, right? So I think most of the time you're thinking it before you're saying it, and if you're mentally done, then you're physically done. But I will say those moments that I physically am, or I'm mentally thinking I can't go on, I remind myself everything's temporary. I'm going to blink my eyes and this day is going to be over. And before I know it, I blink my eyes and it's over,
You have a mantra when you get to those moments?
Not really. I just tell myself this too shall pass, like this is, I'm
That's
not
cool.
going to die, and if I do, well, it was
Well.
fun, it's been
Okay.
real.
Yeah.
But I mean, especially, and that's gotten me through a lot of things, in military and fire and, you fill in the blank, just thinking this too will pass, nothing's permanent, and it gets you through it.
Do you think the influx of female firefighters, I think it's fantastic. I love it. It's great. It was unheard of when I started. I think it's wonderful. Are y'all seeing a bunch of that down there? We're getting at least probably 2 or 3 or 4 in probably every process that we have now. Where, like I said, used to be that was unheard of, but now it's common.
Yeah, I mean, it's talking to you.
It's supposed to be quiet.
Yeah.
Well, did you name her?
Fitting too.
There you go. You might want to think about it. No, I will say yes. We're definitely seeing more and more female firefighters, and I too love it.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing. It's just at the end of the day, we all got to do the same job. So I don't care if you're female or male or anything in between these days. I don't really care, but you got to just do the job, and anytime I hear about a new female firefighter coming into our department, I'm initially excited because I'm like, absolutely. Like, yes, like girl power. I'll
Mhm.
invite her to my girls' trips. It's going to be great. But then the second part of me is like, but can't you do the job? And it's like that with any employee, of course, and so as long as they can do the job, I'm all for it. But, there's obviously a stigma around it too. Like some women just can't. I mean, some men just can't either,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Just equally as difficult.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think it's a great thing. I think it's, we've got 1,600 employees and 100 of us are women. So,
Wow.
and we're considered a women heavy department. So
That's super
there's
cool.
not
though.
very many of us. But
It's to kind of go off the back of what you just said. It seems like y'all are y'all's biggest critics. Women firefighters amongst
yes.
Laura, great friend of ours, much like you, a absolute stud in the fire service, and she's the biggest. I think every girl that comes to our department, she has to vet them.
Mhm.
Basically,
Yeah, I mean,
you got to go through the Laura Lee
well,
test.
because if one female comes through and does something stupid or can't perform the job, then all of a sudden it's okay. See, told you females couldn't do the job. It's like, so it's like it's almost like okay, you're gonna make a name for all of us, so no pressure, but you better be a stud.
Mhm.
It's like
Why can't we do that?
I don't know.
I think
you
we
tell
do,
me.
actually. I was getting ready to say, to be fair, I have those thoughts. Like when new people come on.
I definitely
boy or
have
girl,
those
yeah,
thoughts, but it's way different for some reason.
I guess it is, but I still ask the same questions. Like, well, they got hired, but can they help?
Yeah. Can they
Or-
do the job?
Yeah, or
Yeah.
are they just keeping a seat warm?
Can they at least meet the standard?
Mm-hmm.
I get it, but it sounds like the way that they do it has a lot more effect.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe.
More specific.
Yeah.
Might be a little more threatening. I'm not sure, but
That might be it.
Yeah. That's neither here nor there.
That's because
Yeah.
y'all are terrifying.
Mhm.
If that's a byproduct.
I'm kidding for sure. So summer headquarters opens up.
Yes, that's the goal.
We have a hard date yet?
No.
Flexible
Mhm.
date. Flexible
Flexible,
month.
probably.
We're going with a season.
Yeah,
Yeah.
summer.
Summer.
Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
stick with it.
All right.
I
Summer.
like that. Yeah.
I've learned, excuse me, I've learned with opening the gyms that the second you put a date on it, it's not going to happen. It didn't happen in the gyms. It's not going to happen in the restaurant.
Mhm.
I've just accepted that I hope it opens in the summer and, go from there.
Anything construction wise, I think that's
Yeah.
a safe bet.
Yeah, exactly. Homes, residential, commercial, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
So,
Expectation management is tough.
yes.
Yep.
Yes. So, as long as I'm making forward momentum, I'm happy. So,
Mhm.
Cool beans. Yeah, well, hopefully you'll reach out to us when it's about a week out.
yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to be ramping it up online and on Instagram. I've got, it's funny, the neighbor to headquarters, he's a liquor distillery.
Oh, cool.
And he's been around for over 10 years. And he asked me the other day, he goes, who does your social media for headquarters? Because you have more followers than me and you're not even open. And I'm like, I just post really good stuff. I don't know what to tell you. And he's like, well, we can't wait for you to open. And we literally share
Sure.
a wall. So yeah, we'll be posting stuff on our Instagram and ramping it up. And we're going to do a friends and family soft opening first for only first responders and military and family, and make it just very exclusive. And then we'll open it to the public a week or two after that. So
Nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Exciting times.
yeah, I'm so ready. Can't wait. So
Well, thank you for coming in and
yeah,
chatting with us.
of course. Thanks for having me. This is awesome. So
Mhm.
definitely have to get you to Florida though.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
So I don't need an excuse.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
now you've got one.
Yeah.
So for sure, get you to Florida.
Any shout outs you want to give? Why?
Yeah, I mean, I will say definitely shout out to my boyfriend Ralph, who's here.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I like him.
Got some shoulders for sure.
he does. I always say he's 6'10",
Yeah.
Yeah. But so he has put up with my social media adventures, and that I'm slowly learning to navigate better and better, and pit stops like this and shows and stuff. So shout out to him for his patience and support around that
Yeah.
stuff.
Thanks, Ralph.
Yeah, thanks. And yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, my father has been a big help with the gyms, and everybody, brothers and sisters at the firehouse, for dealing with me just as much there as people deal with me at home. So
Fantastic. It's
Yeah.
been an absolute pleasure. How can people find you?
people can find me on Instagram, EGM Suit, SUIT, and that's my handle on Instagram. And I'm on LinkedIn, Liz Suit on LinkedIn.
Nice.
So that's about it.
And all the links to headquarters and stuff like that, they can just get from
Yep.
your landing page.
Yep, they can get it right from my landing page, and on my Instagram in my bio is a link, and it'll take you to either my gyms or the restaurant.
Perfect.
Right from there.
Fantastic. Well, it's been a pleasure.
Yes.
We have enjoyed it. Thank you for spending your time with us.
Awesome. Thank you,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks.